you're not going to be able to buy anything if you're not on their system,
No.
period. And
Yeah,
that's how they're
those
setting it up.
stablecoin acts that were passed last week, all the three of those, and that was the end of the dollar as you know it, and we're moving to the stablecoin standard. And those of you who don't know this, what happens on August 1st of this year? Just a little bit over a week from today. $7 trillion US of our debt comes to renewal. And people are looking at this saying, wait a minute, there's not going to be enough buyers for this debt. So the whole stablecoin thing that we see is, yay, companies can issue it. We've come to a new standard. So the dollar that we knew and we grew up is gone. It is absolutely being and has been in the process of a substitution phase right now. They're not going to call it something new. They're just still going to call it the dollar. It's just going to be a stablecoin backed digital dollar. This is what we're moving to, because by pledging your house and my house, my car, that building, that land, my land, that all has a value to it. And then they can issue the stable coins against it. See, that's the whole thing they keep promising everybody, is it needs to be backed by something, that the $1 will be, the stable coin has a backing and a peg of $1 to the stable coin. It doesn't matter if it's an RLUSD or USDT or USDC or whatever. And a lot of companies are even offering their own now stablecoin $1 issuance, but it's still pegged to $1. And the only thing they can peg it to $1 to are physical assets. So think about how much money there is in America in physical assets, from the mining to the factories, to the railroads, to the locks, to the everything that can possibly be owned by a company in the Fortune 1000, or even private companies or LLCs or single proprietorships. My house, everybody else, any asset anywhere in America is going to be into it. And they're going to assign a dollar value to it, and then they're going to reissue the stable coins. But all they're doing is just shuffling the debt around because we can't repay it. So all I'm saying is August 1st is a significant day for America here in terms of, look for some distraction to happen, is all I would say with that. You can't have $7 trillion come due, and there's supposed to be all these available buyers that will soak up $7 trillion. There's just not. There's not. So then where does it go from here? It's a question, because Japan, they were having their own ridiculous, unbelievable difficulties with their finances there in their bond market, and they're also debt from the government. And then there's rice shortages over there, and people are unhappy, and China's collapsing in their real estate. They had to pump as much money as they've ever pumped into their economy ever since the great financial crisis to keep the real estate market from totally collapsing again right now. So everywhere you look, people are getting rid of dollars anyway. They want to go to the BRICS system, and they want to get this swappable gold on the difference between the transactions. Because Andy Schectman, who I've done a couple interviews with before up at Miles Franklin, he had a great interview and was talking about the M-Bridge, which is a digital movement of monies. That's going to be sort of the cornerstone that comes through the Middle East, and with the Shanghai Gold Exchange. Now, the gold's going to be distributed across the planet, and there's different clearing houses. So if Russia has 50,000 tons of iron ore and they want to swap out for, I don't know, 20,000 tons of manganese, it's not going to be exactly equal on the pricing. So the difference on that will be settled in gold. And there's going to be all these clearing houses for gold, so you can take physical delivery for it. And it's going to be pegged again to whatever stablecoin issuance or M-Bridge issuance, or they used to call it the unit, whatever it would be. It's going to also have something that's going to be a physical asset behind it to give it the value of 1 equals something, but it'll be gold settled. Like in America, you're not doing that. You're just getting a digital thing that exists out in the ether that's already repriced into our stuff that's already here in America that we're getting taxed on, that's already been taxed. Double, triple, quadruple into infinity. And we're almost at 38 trillion on the debt, and we can't roll it over. So I don't know. We are seriously at the end of a system here. So the trap is, and the reason I tell you all this is 2027, this is a significant year. We are going to start to do away with American physical US dollars. During the time of 2027, that year, they're going to give you in the beginning of the year the warning or the happy announcement that you're going to have to turn in your paper money. When that paper money will be converted to a digital dollar, you're going to come into the USD stablecoin of your bank of your choice. Usually the top 12 big banks in America are going to be issuing these stable coins for the government as well as their own stable coins. For like JP Morgan has its own stable coin. Bank of America has its own stable coin. Wells Fargo has its own. All right, so these all have their own stable coins based on the value of these banks and the assets they hold in the banks, like a house title. They could say David's house and land is worth this much, and we can do a 1-to-1 for that, so we can issue stable coins based on David's land. And each bank's going to issue their own, but then they're also going to have another layer behind, which is our government's debt stable coins, which is a 1-to-1 based on like national land holdings and mining rights and all these things, oil reserves inside the ground, whatever. You are going to have to turn in your money. But here's where it gets scary, because I know they're not just going to go, oh, great, here's 20 grand in cash. They're probably going to want accounting for every single dollar of it in your tax through all the times you've worked. I was, hey, I squirrel money away, you know, because I don't trust the system. So every paycheck I've been saving $200 for the last 15 years. And I have 20 grand now, or whatever you want to do with your math on that. And they're going to go, well, no, we need to see receipts where all your money came from. And we can't change you in because you don't have the receipts for this, which turns into the black market somewhere because somebody's going to want to get in on it. But you can't, because it's digital at that point and everything's tracked and traced. Like these next couple of years, winding into 2030 with the Agenda 2030 sustainability goals, in addition to the transition of our cash in 2027, is the best of my knowledge and the most up-to-date information that I have as of yesterday. 2027 is the start point where we get rid of the physical money in our country. And everything at that point goes digital from that moment along, you know. I saw it happen to the Kuna over in Croatia when I was traveling there. It was sad to see all those people lost their money. They couldn't get into the banks, and you know, the banks weren't open enough to get everybody in there. Got boxes of money, and it's just worthless at the end of that. You know, so if you don't cash your dollars in, they're going to be worth zero at the end of that. If you don't get the digital equivalent, all that paper money could be hundreds. It doesn't matter. They're going to zero if you don't cash it in. So then what? Then, you know, then it comes to the world where Ransom and I are talking about here. You are going to be tightly controlled. And by the way, Starlink went down today completely globally. The entire global network of Starlink went down. So if you think, well, I'll just be like a global citizen and hop on Starlink because I don't have to go through the hoops and hurdles of signing on to my local internet and getting the ISP with a digital retinal scan so I can get online. I'll just go to Starlink. They just shown the vulnerability of that entire global network being down. Something very, very wrong is happening. That was supposed to be the darling, you know, child of communications, track and trace. And this is how they were monitoring forests and how they were going to do carbon sequestration credits by covering every square inch of the earth. You know, part of that was just not communications up there. Part of that was with LiDAR, scanning the forests. So every square inch of our planet was being utilized in terms of giving it value. This is where the stablecoin issuance comes in. Because if they can measure out every square meter of our earth, then there can be a price associated with that. Whether it's a grassland and they give you $1 per acre on the sequestration on straight grass, and then you let it grow for another 2 years, and then they give you $4 an acre because it's got some taller, you know, smaller saplings growing on it. And then after 5 years, you get a different rate of, I think it's $12. And then it goes on from there until you get to old growth, or like what you consider 100-year-old forests, where you're getting like $200 an acre. Like every single step of this is going to be mapped out and on a digital system, paid, swapped around. And, you know, I feel sad for a lot of people. They don't understand this is coming, and they don't even, like, I'm speaking, I could be reading these hieroglyphs behind me, even talking about digital transference. And I got some Bank for International Settlements here too on the way they're going to, let me show you this one quick here. I know I'm rambling, Ransom, but let me jump on this one and pop up on my Bank for International Settlements here. I thought you might like this one because I've been, oh, here it is, the Pine Project. So this is what the workings of our world are moving to from here. The central bank is on the far left there. And they don't really tell you if it's the Bank for International Settlements or if it's the World Bank or International Monetary Fund, or if it's actually central banks of each individual nation. But then they're the ones that are going to issue. So we're beyond now debt in terms of American debt or UK debt or whatever, Canadian debt. It is going to a central bank, and I think it's going to be more on the global level because they keep pushing this whole global everything. They're going to be the one that are going to issue anything financial from that point. And it's all going to be on the blockchain. So here's your flow model of how it works. They're going to be digitizing securities. They're going to digitize real estate. They're digitizing all financial instruments, whatever that entails. Anything that could have a financial backing to it that can be swapped out. And then that finally makes it to your bank, what I'm talking about, the JP Morgan stable coins. And then it moves from there. So this whole JP Morgan thing today, also, they were saying that they want to issue loans against your crypto. So a lot of people are offering Bitcoin backed loans. They don't even check your credit. You got Bitcoin. It's like a tier one capital. It's like walking in with a bar of gold. I don't care what your previous history was, bro. You got a kilogram of gold, I'll give you a loan. Give me that brick of gold and we'll back it. And I don't care what you did in your past. You got a kilogram of gold bar right there. I'll give you a loan. Same thing with Bitcoin. So a lot of like Arch Capital and Lantern Finance, and there's a whole bunch of other ones out there that were saying, give us a Bitcoin. You can take up to like 50% of the Bitcoin's value. We'll give you a loan. Just Bitcoin. I don't care what you did. We'll give you 50 grand. Or it's 60 now because it's at $1.20, $1.20 and 120,000. But JP Morgan wants you to do the same thing. Now, just with a straight face, JP Morgan wants you to give your keys to your Bitcoin to JP Morgan, and they want to give you a loan against that. Now, do you think they're ever going to give you your Bitcoin back? Never. I could never, even in my wildest dreams, consider giving any crypto to JP Morgan to get a loan. But this is where that whole flow is right there, those blue circles. And then it comes down to the assets, and you see that little tiny green dot way down there. That's you sandwiched between the corporations over there. That little green dot is you. Everything else is that behemoth of instruments around you, all digital. So if you don't want to play in their world, then there's going to be no other way. So this is what I don't like, because we're all getting trapped into this thing. I don't know if there's going to be another way to get out of this, because everywhere you look, there's no way to escape this so encompassing machine. Even if you're paying property taxes, that's going to go digital, where you're going to have to. Now, some states have said gold and silver is going to be good to pay property tax. But at what point can't you even operate to even go into a store, because your biometrics are going to be scanned, and you're going to have to use the stable coin of the country or the banks that issue that for you to even be able to buy anything, because they won't take your round of silver in a supermarket. That's going to be 100% digital. How are you going to do, unless you deal just in the farm community? But you're going to need to buy petrol, or you're going to need repair parts. You're going to need to get some lumber for repairs. Oh, no, sorry. Home Depot only takes USD stable coins now. What are you going to do? Like the net is really starting to get tight right now. So for me, with the equivalent balance of global crop yields declining to the point of famine and social unrest, the clamping and control needs to tighten as fast as that crop yield declines are being noticed by the general populace. So there's this teeter-totter balance. You teeter-totter as a kid, you try to stay in balance there. Well, this balance moving forward is governments understand hungry people do crazy and strange things. So the crop losses and the amount of food price rises that will spark civil unrest is going to be matched by the amount of control put on top of the populace in advance to stop that from occurring to the level where it will be uncontrollable. So for me right now, I'm going, it's getting dangerously close to our food prices are going to get so astronomically ridiculous at the end of this harvest season here, when it comes in really 10%, 15% under what they were predicting. And then you'll start to see why there's so much control coming down, because they might feed us this story about, oh, it's better technology, it's instant settlements, it's this, it's that. for your convenience, and we can track, and there'll be no whatever they money laundering or bribery from the politicians. Okay. But what it really is, I think, is a soft rationing system that is being put in place in front of the food shortages. So you come at it from that way, because if you're going to have to sell the populace on, by the way, we're coming into global food shortages and we're going to need to give you these rationing cards, nobody's going to buy that. But if you come at it with, hey, we got all these digital stable coins, and you're going to have biometrics to get in the supermarkets, and it's going to be so much safer and this and that. See, they're laying the groundwork for it to be nothing more than a digital rationing card tied to your social credit score and your compliance. So, looking at this set of variables, one leads the other. And I'm going to say absolutely the control mechanism that's being put forth to control money, access to food, and mobility, ability to travel, is front running. The control mechanism of that, the tightening of it, is front running where we're sitting on the global crop yield declines. So I would say, about a year ish, because if you've been following this since the COVID time, we got some incredible crop losses in 2019 and 20. It started to spike those food prices anyway. The global financial system was failing. The overnight repo market was almost $1 trillion a night. They needed a loan into the market so the financial system wouldn't collapse. That was 2019 in November. And then 2020, what happened with the COVID, everything locked down, endless money printing. Nobody asked a question. Please remember civilizationcycle.com, and also buy me a coffee /Civilization Cycle.